Good afternoon. Linda asked me to give you a word on what's going on in Washington, but I think all of you know there's been so much press on all the change. But I wanted to keep score of all the change that was happening in the area of women's rights. And if you look at this issue of Ms., which is the current issue, which is in your welcome kit there, you'll see there's a keeping score section, or how we're doing, right there. And this is the fastest action I've ever seen in Washington, and I've been there a long time. There's so much happening that it's very hard to keep score, and since we printed this list, there's so much more. Actually, this administration started before the swearing in. I don't know if some of you know, but people in the team, the White House team, left the swearing in ceremony to move in. I mean, they didn't waste a minute. And they didn't waste a minute reaching out to the women's community. We were very involved and invited to many sessions with the transition team before, all during, right after the election through the swearing in January. And no administration, I think, has ever done that. We worked on many different areas, everything from reproductive rights to the economic stimulus package. And I think we've had great input. The economic stimulus package, which they kept on saying initially was for shovel-ready jobs, ended up that 42% of the jobs are jobs that in areas that females or women dominate in those areas, or the majority of the workers. How do we know that? Because this is the first stimulus package, or for that matter, I think it's the first administration package that supplied a gender impact analysis of the jobs being kept and retained. And that's because, frankly, of all the work and input of our groups that worked with them. And I'm talking about a lot of different women's groups have participated in many different meetings, too many to enumerate here. We all started kidding ourselves after the Lilly Ledbetter signing, and as you know, that's the first bill that the president signed, that this was the first time many of us had been back in the White House in 8 years. But believe me, it wasn't the last. We have now been invited so many different occasions, I think most of us have lost count. It's been quite exciting. But I think we're getting things done, and that's the key thing. When you think of the S-chip bill, and I go down this list, and then after this list, many, many more things culminating with the Sonia Sotomayor appointment. But it's in every field. We just met yesterday, as a matter of fact, on the health care reform package, making sure that women's health care would be comprehensive. Not only wouldn't we lose, but women as a whole would gain in coverage, and women and children, obviously. Hopefully universal. It looks like now there's going to be definitely a public option. And remember, about 50 million people are not insured now. Most of them are women. This week, we passed through the House the parental leave bill. Which by a wide margin, it's not a great parental leave bill, but it's the first one since the Unpaid Act, which was passed in 1994 under Clinton. This parental leave bill is for federal employees only 1 month, but it's the beginning of paid leave. And I hope that it passes the Senate. You know, in all these things, we have the problem with the Republicans either filibustering or holding it up for that 60th vote, or, frankly, sometimes we lose the right-wing Democrats. There's not many of them left, but still, it's always a push. But we're moving things, and we're moving it through the Senate. Today, they introduced the Healthy Family Act, which is paid sick leave, 7 days guaranteed for employers with more than 15 employees. I don't know if you all realize over half of all women workers do not have 1 day of paid sick leave. Think about that. Not even 1 day. Half, a little more than half of all women workers. I mean, it's disgraceful in this age. To say we lag behind the rest of the industrial world is an understatement. It's the same thing with family medical leave, but at least there's movement in the right direction. And we have to push, 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 but I do feel that there's more wind behind our back. What's happening right now also, of course, is the tragedy of Dr. Tiller, his shooting this week. And unfortunately, there's been a change, and there's always a reaction to that change. I believe the last shootings we had, of course, was when Clinton was in. And I hope this doesn't repeat because, as you know, there were shootings in 93, 94, 98 under Clinton. We're hoping that there will be a quicker response. I personally talked to the Attorney General. We put a request in at 4 in the afternoon on Sunday, the day of the shooting. I talked to him by 7, and they made a commitment to the Department of Justice to put marshals to protect the other doctors who are being threatened, and they were dispatched very rapidly. We still have a lot more to do. We are meeting with justice officials, with Eric Holder, etc. I don't know if some of you have been near your BlackBerry. There's been another shooting today in Washington at the Holocaust Museum, and another white supremacist. Remember this guy who shot Dr. Tiller was involved in the Montana Freeman Militia, which is a white supremacist group. Now, so with the forward movement, there's always a backlash. Some people worry that the target could have been Eric Holder, who's the Attorney General, who's a fine man and a person definitely interested in social justice, and he's a doer. So I feel, though, that this forward movement comes so infrequently. There is so much to do. Your women's groups in Washington and around the nation, but I can tell you those of us in Washington are flooded with work. That's the good thing. I mean, we're flooded with mostly positive things, but of course, this shooting means a lot of us that deal with the reproductive rights issue are now even more doubly busy because several of us do clinic defense work. Our organization does, for example. But there is so many things that we can be doing and so much opportunity. Think today of all the forward movement and think about what we need to do in this time of change. The country is in a perilous time, as we all know, but there is time. There is opportunity that we never had before. When Linda talked about the appointment of the global ambassador, Milan Verveer for Women's Affairs, Global Ambassador for Women's Affairs, first time. She is going soon to Afghanistan. We are very active in fighting for more rights for women in Afghanistan. We just got through the supplemental bill, a $30 million commitment for funding Afghan nonprofit organizations led by Afghan women. All these things, I mean, that's just a supplemental bill. There's $100 million in the ask for the budget bill just for the Afghan. What do they need it? Of course. But there's so many places that we can have impact. So think in terms of this day that you have of what can be done. I do believe there's a lot of movement and opportunity. Things aren't perfect, but they're better than they've been in a long time. And but yet, just remember, there's a backlash, and we got to make sure that it doesn't take us in either. Thank you very much.
Ellie, thank you so much.